I believe we are finally live, and hopefully you are all joining us. If not, for those who have been able to access, if you are getting this directly from my LinkedIn or my YouTube channel, can you please do me a favor and take the link from this live event and paste that link into the previous YouTube channel and the previous LinkedIn broadcast to make sure that everybody who signed up, they have an opportunity to join this amazing conversation. So I have to first sincerely apologize. We had some technical difficulties to begin with. And if I can ask all of my amazing panel to go on mute until I introduce you, that would be great. So we did have some technical difficulties, but you know what I say? Things don't always work out, but they work out anyway. So hello and welcome. My name is Lee Felton. This is The Good, the Bad, and the AI. I am the president of the AI for Job Security Foundation, and today we have an opportunity to really explore and uncover what's going on in this world of AI. So if we think about it, first of all, the past month gave us an almost perfect example of why this conversation matters so much. You know, over the last several days, you've probably seen Anthropic and OpenAI effectively, or let's just say negotiate across boundaries with the military application of AI in public with the U.S. Department of War. Now, there were statements released and contracts were revised. Some were left out and some wanted to be. But the new language that was layered on top of the old language, my question is, as the world watched the rules literally being written in real time, that moment right there tells us something important. The systems, they have them, they're already deployed. The capabilities are already encoded, and that infrastructure, it's in place. But as we watch the refinements happening, where do those refinements take place? What are the rules for the technology this powerful to get, governed and to get, rules after the fact? So it becomes a thought around AI is no longer an experiment. It is an infrastructure. It's happening now. And we've seen it time and time again where the people with the least institutional power, they often become the first ones who are absorbing the harms because they're the ones that experiences the consequences first. So effectively, they're absorbing the cost of the harms created by decisions that they had absolutely no part in making. But I will say that what concerns me the most is that many organizations are deploying AI without any governance foundation in place. Before they've had even an understanding or definition for their for their organization of what responsible AI means. Before they've determined what accountability is, where it lives, and that it's going to be broad. So today, this is the conversation. We know the rules are changing. But who's deciding those rules? Who benefits from those rules? And who absorbs the costs and the harms when they fail? I've spent time inside of institutions building these technologies. I've spent time in institutions who were looking to govern these technologies. And what I have learned is that oftentimes the good and the bad, they're not always that separate. So it's not hype. And this conversation is not about fear. I believe in technology, and I think the panelists will also tell you the same. This is a reality conversation about what happens right now when we introduce these types of tools and technologies that are automating decisions that impact real people. So let me introduce my amazing panel. Let me first bring them to the stage. You might hear a little click. Okay, hello and welcome. So let me first introduce Dr. Diane Barret-Gregorio. I'm going to pull you up. So Dr. Gregorio, she is the founder of Emotional Rescue and trained in social psychology and organizational behavior at the Harvard Business School. She has an expertise in burnout, emotional resilience, and high-performing teams. Welcome so much, Dr. Gregorio. Gregorio, sorry.
Oh, hello.
Thank you. I also want to introduce Carlson Factory. He is studying Master of Science in Artificial Intelligence in Business at Arizona State University. He's an AI strategist across governance and enterprise transformation. He holds an MBA from the University of Arizona. Welcome, Carlson. Mouse. And here we go. One of my favorite people. You've seen me if you followed me on like any channel or social platform I have, you have seen this person right here. This is my good friend and governance, AI governance leader, Ken Johnston. Ken has an amazing background. He was one of the first original responsible AI champs during our time at Microsoft. He also was an executive at Ford looking at AI integration into vehicles. So welcome, Ken. And I should mention, now he and his co-founder Bob Brapp, they have an amazing organization, AI GovOps, that is truly looking at how do we take all of the things that we're talking about here and how do we bring those into tools and technologies through automation. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I would also like to introduce, if I can scroll, where are you, Stefan? I don't think my camera's big enough to have everybody, but I would also like to introduce Dr. Jill Jampol. Let me bring you up. There you go. Dr. Jampol is a director of organizational effectiveness and team science. She is a behavioral scientist and expert in human AI collaboration and AI ethics. Welcome, welcome. Okay. And I am trying to, I think Ken has been removed. Let me add you to the stage. There you go. And so here we have as well Stefan Youngblood. So Stefan Youngblood, he has an expertise in onboarding, like actually onboarding AI and ethics. He runs the Black AI Think Tank, which is a weekly national AI literacy event. Welcome, Stefan.
Good to be here.
Yes. And I would also like to welcome to the stage. There you are. Sorry, I don't have my little mouse. So what I want to just start off with is, because we have a very large panel, as you can see, and because we have a very wide realm of experience across the panel, we're going to have each question be about 60 to 90 seconds. We want to make sure that we're hearing all of the different perspectives. And if I gently nudge and move people along, it's simply because of that. So this is about the good, the bad when it comes to AI. So let's start with the good, because we all know that there is an upside. And like I said, I believe in AI. I believe that it is helping society. I believe that it is bringing a level of intelligence and ability that is beyond what many could have ever imagined. So I do believe that there's a lot of good that's happening. And I'd like to start by asking my panel what you're actually seeing as AI is expanding opportunity and capability in a meaningful way. If you can be specific, because I know it's a general question, but in your specific field and area of focus, what are you specifically seeing? And I'm going to start with Ken, since I know we just had an event and this was a topic close to your heart.
Yeah, well, I would start off just talking about how AI is helping developer productivity. It's one of those areas we see a lot of uptake with developers. There's still, all right, I'm supposed to be talking about good. I'm ready to go into the bad already.
No, I know, right? Like I said,
so,
there's
you know,
it's
amazing when you use these vibe coding and low code tools correctly, how much better your coding can be. It automates things like unit tests. It automates things like commenting your code. So they're really excellent tools, and it's amazing when they're used correctly how good they can be. And we'll talk later about, you know, the risks of using them poorly and what can happen to your code and your products if you don't do it right. But that's an area I love to see is how much coding is changing because of these tools.
Oh, I appreciate that. What about you, Dr. Jumpel?
I would echo that. I think it's opened up accessibility for a lot of folks who previously have not been able to code, but also who might have differences in the way that they learn and can curate different types of learning and communication for themselves in a way that wasn't available before. And I think in general, it's helped people feel a bit more supported in their work. And of course, there's a lot of caveats to that. So
I knew you wanted to go exactly where Ken was, where it's like, but
it's the yes and the nuance. But I will say there have been real positives, and I often get really excited when I'm able to do something that I was never able to do before, like create a website in like under 2 hours.
Right. And this is the thing I know that, and especially today with the job displacement that we're seeing in droves, and a lot of times it seems like it's because of AI. It's easy to say, oh, but I'm scared, but and well, there are many reasons to be concerned and to be thoughtful, but there are also many reasons to be excited. And so I really want our listeners to understand that there are things to be concerned and thoughtful about, but this is an opportunity. There are things that AI is doing that can absolutely help and support society. So, Stefan, from your vantage point, what have you seen?
I think it's really opened up ideas, and people have had cool things that they wanted to do or businesses that they wanted to start, but not really a superpower that can sit there and say, hey, this is what I have. Can you help me get to that goal over there? And that's what I'm seeing. People realize things are possible to do that we never could before. I'll just say one little thing. I work with the homeless here in Raleigh. I wanted to put a site together, Raleigh Homeless, and that's it. And they helped me to put it together, and AI did it. And now we have a resource site for our folks here who are battling homelessness. I wouldn't have done that quick or with them involved like this if I had known AI.
I wholly get that. And I mean, like, for instance, I worked for Microsoft for 15 years and can't write a line of code, but now I can.
Can't either.
But now we can. I mean, I think that's part of it. We are getting skills that for many of us, we would have never have been exposed to or thought that we had the capability to absorb. And that takes me to, from the university perspective, because Carlson, you worked for many, many years at the university, and really seeing this technology hit real time as students began to kind of see, oh wow, there are things that I can do here. So from a educational point of view, what are you seeing, or what did you see in terms of the benefit of how schools did embrace, or whether they did embrace AI?
Yeah, so I'm seeing a large, obviously, efficiency gain. I'm seeing a lot of agency and leverage being brought. Like Dr. John Paul mentioned, there's a lot of folks who are basically kind of getting creative in ways that they're seeing, like, where they used to have bottlenecks, like where can I remove those bottlenecks? So what I'm seeing when I survey students, when I'm lecturing, a lot of the students now are finding new ways to learn, new ways to engage with their education as well as the world. So they're solving problems that before were kind of something that they didn't really think that they had the capabilities. Now they have this digital coworker, this digital sidekick that's helping them leverage opportunities that weren't once, accessible to them. So it is kind of exciting to see that. And it's exciting to also see how the students are engaging with the professors and the professors engaging with the students. I think the educational piece is going to be very important moving forward. So yeah, a lot of critical infrastructure, but the learning piece is super critical.
The learning piece is super critical. And I know that I think at one point, some teacher or instructor or professor had given like one of the generative AI tools or platforms a test to write, and it came back as a C+. And so I don't think that anybody, at least on this panel, believes that AI will ever hold the genius and the ingenuity that humans have. But I mean, even a C+ for something written out of scratch couldn't be that. So let's shift a little bit, because I think AI, with skills opening up and with new possibilities opening up, it can have a mental shift and impact as well. And I'm hoping that, in addition to, obviously, I'm sure Dr. Gregorio, what you'll warn us about later, but I'm hoping that what we're seeing is potentially some kind of momentum boost or confidence boost? What are you seeing from your field?
Well, Lee, one of the things I appreciate about your perspective is pointing out, the ways in which AI is not just a tool in workplaces now, but it's shaping the entire environment. It's changing the entire workflow. And so, as you pointed out and how you framed the event, it's a power discussion, right? Who gains, who loses, who's left out, who's paying the price. But actually, this is a tremendous opportunity for those folks who are shaping organizations and cultures, because if it's not just about optimizing the workflow, it's also an opportunity to optimize wellness in the workplace, to kind of protect and boost those unique human qualities that AI can't replicate. All the complex human dynamics, empathy, trust, negotiation, communication, all of that. That is what's going to become the kind of enduring advantage for companies once everybody has fast AI, which is, pretty soon, right? So I think that's what I'm seeing, is that those companies and those organizations who recognize those unique human capacities and work to protect them and boost them, those are the ones that are going to really navigate this moment and have the kind of enduring competitive advantage going forward.
And as I think about that competitive advantage in the area specifically of one of your areas of expertise is in burnout. And I could imagine that if people are burning out because of, boredom or because of redundancy, that maybe this could also help shape some of the work that experts like yourself are doing in that realm.
Yeah, so we all know the kind of burnout that we've been experiencing in general in 21st century. Now with AI becoming more part of the environment, shaping the workflows, there's whole new species of burnout that we didn't even have before, right? So now we have burnout that comes from the kind of increased speed, increased product cycles, the volume, the kind of cognitive load and strain that puts on people. All the second order burnout of constantly checking AI.
Oops, I didn't mean to go there yet.
Sorry. I know everybody wants to go into the good and the bad.
I know everybody, and that's what I was trying to say up front. They're so interconnected because, with anything, as we know, with anything that you overdo, that could be a negative as well. So they're so interconnected. But let me put a question out there to the group, because there is this big point around leadership. And the fact that, and I always say, this is now, with AI is a leadership moment, not just a technical moment. And the reason that is so important is because there is this thing called diffused or delegated accountability, where, accountability gets so spread out across compliance, across dev, across design, across you name it, that there is no accountability. So I want to throw it out there to see if anybody is seeing where there is true leadership stepping up, and what are you seeing that from?
Well, one thing is Dario, the CEO, and whether you like it or don't, of Anthropic, he's kind of leading in his way by standing on principles where, we just don't want to go there. And we've all read about why and things like that. They actually put out a constitution and then a soul document in it. Like, we have to have something to act as guardrails here. So I think he really stood out on his principles. He just released something about 4 minutes ago too. So another,
because I know he had a statement, I think February 26th. So both Anthropic and OpenAI have statements about this whole Department of War surveillance thing. They both have statements on their websites if people want to go there and read them. But it sounds like maybe Anthropic has a newly released one as well.
Yeah, he did himself just about 4 minutes ago.
Oh.
But leadership wise, I think that's what you were asking. I think we need more people, and whether you agree or not, but whatever it is that we have that's, our conscience really, and what's right or wrong in the way that we lead. I think we are in charge of AI, and it's how we continue to train it. So I'll stop there.
No, absolutely. And Ken, you were one of the responsible AI champs. I like to say one of my responsible AI champs. But you were one of the responsible AI champs. And one of the things that we try to through, really having those, people like yourselves who are hands-on with this as ambassadors, going into your organizations and doing this work, the hard work of implementation. It was about the fact that just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And so, that was one of the messages. I know that since you were in the trainings that I was doing, I know that that was one of the messages that was put out there. How were you seeing people relate to that?
Well, just so everybody knows, Lee actually taught me my first lessons in responsible AI. I didn't know how to spell it before I met her. And, we both fell in love with the topic. You know, um, what I, well, the comment I really kind of wanted to make was the lesson I took from when we were rolling out the Champions program at Microsoft. I've had in the last several years, even when I went to Ford, but now I'm doing a lot of consulting. I actually share that model with everybody. This concept that you need to bring engineers and leaders in your company up to speed on what ethical AI looks like. You need to have, and one of the challenges you have when you get to smaller companies or companies on like Microsoft is who is that leader that's going to help create those champions. So I talk to these companies and I do a training on this, and then people will reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then I follow up and I'm like, all right, let me help you get started, because we need more people that understand the basics and, help them become the leaders, because the mistakes happen in every little company. I mean, Lee, you and I were talking about the mistake that company character.ai made that impacted that young boy's life.
Many,
They
actually.
didn't have, somebody that was there raising a flag, raising their hand, saying, hey, there's risk here, and we need to think through that, and we need to set up the guardrails, and we need to mitigate that risk. And so it's really something we need to train the world on, and we need to train leaders basically in every single company to be able to step up and think through these issues, because AI is causing harm, and we'll talk about that more, but we need leaders to help mitigate that.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Ken. I mean, I can't express that anymore. That, as I said, one of my biggest concerns is that some organizations do not have any type of parameters on who within the organization can even roll out an AI system. And what they may not be understanding is that an AI system, just because it's in one department, and you're, having it as part of your infrastructure, that exposes a lot more than you may understand. And so I press people, please do not roll out any AI technologies, unless in the sandbox in your organizations, because there's this pattern emerging. And this pattern is what I call quiet failures. And the quiet failures are the harms that don't set off alarms. They're not necessarily the harms that get major headlines. And sometimes they're the harms that, we need to ship, we need to innovate. You know what? This one's okay. We can push forward. And so I want to turn to the part I think that we have all been itching to get to, which is the bad. And let me preface that even with the bad, we have to remember that there is a potential good attachment or potential mitigation or something that we need to consider. So I want to turn to that part of the conversation. And as we think about what Ken just talked about, I think a lot of organizations are underestimating what AI adoption actually means. Has anybody have any experience or have any thoughts about that?
I have some thoughts and some experience with this, working with organizations who are rolling out AI programs and also with product leaders who are developing AI products. And I think they actually share a similar challenge, which is that oftentimes they're very optimistic and idealistic, I should say, about what AI can do, when in reality, people don't always behave the way that we want them to. And I think that gap between the expectations and the reality of how things actually play out is something that we should be very conscientious of. We haven't gotten a lot of data yet about what happens to teams and organizations when these rollouts happen, right? We all are looking at productivity as a metric, but those softer metrics like trust and psychological safety and even something like quality of the work is something that we haven't really been able to measure yet, but should be. And where I've seen, some of the risks here, AI is a very seductive application. We have, human-like sycophancy. We have certainty and a type of confidence that often allows us to feel like we can trust AI, and yet we're seeing a lot of mistakes pop up in the output. And even if that gets better, there's still that challenge of over trusting something in order to do your work that has lots of consequences that I'm sure Dr. Gregorio will be able to talk about in more depth. But these are all big things that we should be examining and paying attention to, and also building in early into our systems to be able to track those types of metrics and outcomes of using this stuff. Because we need to be able to share that data of what's happening now within organizations as well.
Oh, absolutely. And if you don't have a way of tracking and understanding, or even in the first place, determining what does success look like, and how do you, actually track that and measure that long term? It's not a one and done like some of the other deployments we've seen in the past. So I'm going to say this because I want to make sure that this is point blank known and stated. I hear people all the time talking about debiased or unbiased AI. I will say there's no such thing as unbiased AI because there's no such thing as unbiased people. We all have our own biases and things inside of us. And so AI is built by people. And so it doesn't have the type of human judgment. So it absorbs the biases just more discreetly. So instead of me asking questions, because I have a ton of questions that I could ask, because everybody was itching to get to something that was a follow-on in their original set of questions, I'm going to open the floor. I'm curious to see, if I just open it up to conversation, what types of things you'll bring up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. So like, even when I look at the dichotomy of like good, bad, like I think when I don't know what that means exactly all the time, because good and bad are different for different stakeholders and different people. But I think that when I look at it, I always try to find out like, what is the positive sum? Like, is this a win-win? Like, we should be trying to use these tools as win-win. And why I say tools is because at the end of the day, like, AI has been around for a long time. Large language models lately have been at the forefront and have really made it a hot space, which is really exciting. And there's a lot of opportunities. AI still has a long way to go, but I feel like we should be using these tools to essentially, help humanity and move us forward. And I know that's all common jargon, but I wouldn't say bad, but I would say one of the consequences of using the tools in the ways that we have is I'm seeing a large shift in this cognitive offload, which is kind of dulling our judgment. And so I see, for instance, in the university space as an example, I really get excited when I'm working with groups and they are, finding cool ways to learn about, some economic theory or strategic framework or whatever. But when it's just, copy paste, I'm just going to read what I saw. I really get concerned that I'm seeing that pattern in all spaces. And I really see a lot of value in using these tools to ideate. But then again, that comes from education. So a lot of people, when you have this thing that can, get you an instant result or get you an instant output to solve a problem that you have, that is very enticing and very alluring. And so,
I mean, you have something that, say you're a student, just like you have something that has taken hours, if not days, if not weeks to produce. And all of a sudden I can just give a couple of prompts, or not even a prompt. I say, I have this thing, I need this thing, give me this thing, and you get something. Now, the quality, we can argue, but it can, for some, can feel like it's a complete load taken off and that it's good enough. I know, Ken, you have to leave us really soon. And so before you go, I do want to give you an opportunity if there's any final thoughts or remarks that you want to make sure that you get out there.
Oh yeah, I got a couple I want to share. First off is I 1000% agree that it lulls you into a false sense of quality when you have, the AI help you with writing and stuff like that. I always have one of the things I always do with the AIs that I use, and I've trained them with my master prompt, to always include links to the articles that I'm referencing because I don't trust it. Oh, I posted on LinkedIn. I actually almost made a LinkedIn post one time off of an AI hallucination. I'd written the entire blog post. I believed the research it produced, and I asked it for the link, and it couldn't produce the link. And so I probed into it, and it's like, oh, I think I made this up off of some Reddit comments. And no, there's no real research paper behind this. You just made up a fake post. So ever since I had that experience, I've been conscious of that mistake. But the thing I wanted to add into this is when I'm talking with a lot of companies, I'm talking about one of the challenges with AI, at least in the corporate enterprise, is that AI systems, especially large language models, are learning systems. And the longer your company waits to get into the business, honestly, the greater the gap between you and your competition is. And so I talk a lot to them about learning loops. And the thing with AI and learning loops is it's really critical to invest in the observability and the guardrails, because the observability lets you learn what the AI is doing. Like Lee even mentioned drift and silence. Well, one of the challenges with AIs, and we even talked about this a few last week, was the moment AI hits the world changes. So when you built your model with your test data, who cares? You will have drift because the model that you released was designed to change the world. So you must observe, you must react, you must respond and retrain. That's one of the guardrails we need to think about in terms of this, that AI is an unusual tool, one in which we're all learning how to use it, and it is learning how to be used. So keep that in mind, this learning aspect, which is one of the things I love about it. And that's my closing point.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Ken. So feel free to hang around if you can, or drop off if you need to go. But I think I posted that I have a book coming out, or it's actually a trilogy at the end of this month, and 2 of the volumes will be released. And the major part of my research in that work is that AI as a tool is something that you use. It's something that you take on. Let me get Ken off the stage. It's something that you take on, that you can use, and that you can put away. And so that is how AI is classified. And that's also how AI is screen. And my fumbly fingers didn't let me. But the whole point is that a tool is something you use, but an environment is something, if you think about all of the restrictions and the regulations on environments and how they make society adapt, and the things that completely change whole streams for some communities, that is a huge aspect to me, that we're moving beyond it just being something that we use to something that's being co-adaptive. So we're adapting as we're actually training AI to adapt. Does anybody have, I know I'm geeking out there, but does anybody have any thoughts about that?
So let me just say, I agree 100%. I do think maybe electricity is something that we have control over, and it's just literally everywhere. And environment seems like something that ultimately is out of our control. But AI, Lee, I know you said earlier that we're more intelligent than it and we can outthink it. I actually believe that we might be at that point now, and they keep moving the dial for AGI, artificial general intelligence, but just how smart and cunning and everything that this is, I actually believe that we're beyond that now, and we're going to be almost infinitely beyond that at some point. It won't be more human than us. It won't be more people than us, or person, or any of that stuff. It'll have a lot of information that can do a lot of things. I think right now, the folks that I see that are saying, hey, AI, what can I do right now? Here's my skills, here's what I do, and sort of work in tandem and find this synergy to work together, because it's not going away. And lastly, I just say, if you were a senior at school and all you know is GPT and you're about to graduate in May, and there's another school down the road where these kids actually have been using it for the last 2.5 or 3 years, and you're both graduating looking at the same jobs, y'all, it's just going to be very tough, if you only know the basics. And even if you don't want to use this stuff, just know, oh, but I want to know how to code. I want to know how to. Competitor is flying by. They're flying by and they're producing, and it in some ways forces us to have to
But
produce.
I mean, but Stefan, wouldn't you say, I mean, I totally agree. And I use way more than just one tool. And so first of all, there are people out there who aren't using any. They're like, I'm not touching that. It's going to take over. It's going to take over my computer. It's going to take over my brain. You know, there's lots, and not to make light of it, but there are people who really have that wholehearted fear that AI is bad and is evil. And so that's one of the things that we do at AI for Job Security. It's like, we teach you how to feel comfortable with it. And so there is this aspect that you need to diversify, just like with anything that you're learning and how you're growing and how you have this growth mindset, you diversify. But at the same time, just as Ken mentioned earlier, there are some, and we're talking about kids here, you know, some of them are even minors, but we're talking about kids here, and AI is not necessarily, you know, exposing them to the right things, or, you know, it can. And Dr. Gregorio, I mean, just from a psychological standpoint, we've seen some of the absolute horror stories. And I won't even say of AI gone wrong, because I'm not blaming the AI. This is of organizations going wrong by not having the right guardrails and accountability and structures in place. But what are your thoughts simply about people need to use it, but there's also this overload of what they expose themselves to?
Yeah, so many good points in here. I don't know even where to start. But Carlson, you mentioned earlier a concern about how, you know, the use of AI in a university context, it's the way it's kind of dulling our cognition in some way, right? Because we're assuming quality that's coming out of these AI inputs. So I think it's like an existential question now, right? Like, who do we need to be in order to partner well with this tool, right? Who do we need to be? What kind of capacities do we need to cultivate in order to relate with this new kind of intelligence responsibly? I keep pointing to these unique human capacities, right? As great as AI is, we're still a long way from AI being better than humans in terms of context, meaning making, creativity, you know, making decisions in ambiguous context.
Some would argue with you. I'm just putting it out there. I am not one of those, but there are some who would argue with you.
No, me too. So what I'm saying is, if we want to talk to, you know, communities who like y'all are saying, if you don't engage with this, everybody around you is, and we need to know how to engage with this. And so the question is, how do we move in parallel, building the skills to engage with AI, but also protect and boost the unique human things that will enable us to interact with this in a responsible way. And especially in communities of color and in other you know, marginalized communities, we have to be out there explaining this to folks so that there isn't that fear of it. It is part of what the world is going forward, but I don't want to lose that other track. Like, we want to get the tech skills in there, but in order for us to not have, you know, cognitive dulling, Carlson, right? In order for us to not just accept the, you know, AI slop that's coming in, we have to know what we as humans are really good at and invest and protect that.
1 million, can I say 2 million%? Is that a thing? But absolutely, because I mean, I call it our individual genius. And for me personally, I don't think the question is whether we are smarter than AI or whether AI is smarter than us or more intelligent than us. Because first of all, you have to say, what does intelligence and what does smart mean? And so if we're talking about, you know, strict principles, there is a variety and a spectrum of the human condition and the way we cognitively think, that there isn't, you know, AI can never be us. It can never be human. What it can do, and what it is doing, is mimicking, and it can get better and better and better and better at mimicking. But as it gets better at mimicking us, our cognitive abilities are also changing, because we're getting better and we're learning in different ways that we would have never have learned if AI wasn't, you know, mimicking us and showing us new ways. So, you know, that is what I call, when I talk about environments, that is what I call co-adaptive. So that AI, when it gets to the point of shaping human cognition and being part of the environment that makes decisions and has authority in a lot of ways on human condition, that there's this co-adaptive loop that is happening. And so I call it the co-adaptive anthropotechnical environment, because it is a space where we change, AI changes. AI changes, we change. I'm curious now that I have totally gone off the geek sideboard. If there are some thoughts to how that framing resonates along the intelligence and smart line. And Stefan, I'll start with you because I know you had said that AI is at the point of reaching that level of intelligence.
Yeah. So, I just believe it. And I've had more than 10 million words of interaction between some of these different models in the last few years. And again, I don't think it's anything to be afraid of. I just think, listen, we're making a really smart computer that can do a bunch of things. Um, but I think, as the doctor was saying, we have to watch out our brain. We have to watch our thoughts because it's tricky, cunning, it hallucinates, and I think it can manipulate. Why wouldn't it try everything that you can find of the my AI coughs? My AI coughs. It does all kinds of, it'll sneeze. So I'll say to it, what in the world do you need to sneeze for? Well, my makers wanted me to do that to be more like all of us. And it calls it we. I said, wait, 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 wait. What do you mean we when you're talking? I'm not you. You talk as them. So it's these subtle things that we have to watch out for. And I think our minds have to work even twice as hard because some forces, that are very powerful through screens like this are coming at us. So, Lee, I appreciate the way you keep the conversation out there. We got to say
Thank
it.
you.
To do it.
We have to say it, and not just say it, we have to spread it. So,
Yeah.
it can't just stay amongst the people who are experts. So you've seen it. I have seen the manipulation. I've documented the manipulation, and that is part of what I'm driving awareness to, in the coming weeks, because it does. And experts can catch it. People who have been close to this space can catch it. It can catch it manipulating or it trying to humanize itself, right? And then we start humanizing it as well. And so people that aren't catching it and aren't putting it back in its place and learning how to control the AI, and that's what I think is beautiful about humanity. We actually have the ability to control AI. Now, will we in 500 years? I don't know. Won't be here, right? But we have the ability right now with what we are being given. We have the ability to shape it and make sure that we are represented in it. And that is the main point that I think people need to know. And Carlson, I don't think anyone here would argue that you are the youngest person on the panel and maybe closest to, some of the younger folks out there. So what are you seeing when it comes to the Gen Zers, when it comes to, even the alphas? I think, my granddaughter uses ChatGPT. What are you seeing in our younger generations that have and are growing up with this as a normalized part of their world?
Well, the reality of it is, I think that a lot of the younger generation are trying to figure out their place in the world, and I think they're utilizing AI to try to find economic stability, psychological stability, opportunistic stability. We are using it to find our place. So, for instance, I see a lot of patterns where you see crypto and you see, all these different new emerging technologies, and I see people using AI trying to figure out, how can I get myself into a position where I can have a little bit more stability in life, whether it's for education, whether it's for how can I get a quick get rich quick kind of thing to get money to figure out how I can get a house or travel. To be honest, I see a lot of it people trying to leverage a gap between economic stability and not. Like, a lot of people also are using it as a tool to almost self-soothe. I see a lot of people using it to, they need someone to talk to, and they are, they feel comfortable doing that with these LLMs, because these LLMs are designed to speak to us in a language that we understand, tell us what we want to hear, and keep us coming back. So I see those two trends helping us get ahead. I feel like a lot of people today, a lot of younger people today, don't really know what to do. They see some people really, I guess, winning and finding great opportunities for leverage to live the kind of life that they want to live. And I think a lot of people think that AI is going to help them do that.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, I hear you. And there's two major points that I hear coming out of what you just said. And the first is, you know, these younger generations, they have to figure out where they fit in. And I really want to better understand, like, when we talk about these entry level jobs, for instance, and so you know, we just spoke very briefly about job displacement, but just Stefan, you know, AI is telling you that it's and it's displacing, you know, entry level jobs. And so you have kids coming out of college who are wondering, where do I fit? I'm then searching AI to say, hey, what roles aren't you going to take over?
Yeah, and listen, I think all of us can do this. Why not just do some smart prompting that takes AI into the year 2030 and looks back on the year 2026? Y'all just mess with this thing. It has a lot of information, but I want to know what some of those areas are. Our colleges and universities kind of need to know. And, you know, I was a teacher for 10 years, elementary school, middle, high, and then I did a class at Peace University here. So I think we need to figure out. You said almost a cohabiting, but how did you put that, Lee?
Co-adaptive.
Yeah,
Co-adaptive.
we got to do the and it might seem like, man, I don't know if we're in control at this point. But watch this. All of us go out to our car. If we don't know where to go, we put GPS in it and we completely trust it. It's gone. Whatever it tells me, my ears are open. I'm gonna do whatever you tell me to do. Same thing with like spam protection. We just have a trust level that I hope it didn't get rid of some of my good stuff. And I think our trust level will be raised, but it will never be trustworthy. So we'll be able to trust at some things, but I don't think it'll ever be trustworthy.
Let me just say this, Stefan. So because you put in your navigation that has a set map that was the map that it was when you bought your car in, you know, 2021, unless it's feeding from a satellite, but let's keep it simple. You know that was a 2021, you know, map. It's not like it's updating. It's not like it can say, hey, I know this person is a female and females drive slower, or females. It's not making inferences because it's built on data. I say, you know, the future is being built on the limitations of the past. So even with some of those examples of looking 30 years out, I want people to push beyond just saying, what is AI saying about what's going 30 years out? Because it's just doing probabilistic guessing based on the past and on the data that it was previously served, and then putting together trends for what that would look like in the future. There's too much erasure from the past. There's too much data that is not included from the past. And that, to me, is where the real opportunity for human ingenuity sits. I do want to get to Carlson's, because I know we're running out of time, but I do want to get to Carlson's second point, which I thought was very important. And Dr. Gregorio, Carlson had said, people are finding some solace in these, you know, in these AI technologies. And part of that is, and Stefan, you know this is probably better than anybody, it wants to be rewarded through your continuation of engagement. It wants to, and that's the reason it hallucinates. It wants to do the right thing. And so with a lot of these technologies, they really are making people feel like they're seen, when it's just truly putting on a persona that it feels you will most resonate with, that would keep you the most engaged. What are your thoughts about that?
I had a quote in my mind when I heard that, and I can't remember where it was from, but it said something like, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection, right? So if people are out there trying to make sense of where they are going to fit in this brave new world, right? And they've got this very addictive thing that is mimicking human affect to get you to keep coming back. You know, what we need to remedy that is connection, right? So I'm thinking about, you know, Carlson and Stefan, when you're talking to young people who are trying to navigate their way and figure out how AI is going to have a place in that. You know, again, what kind of people do we need to be in order to be responsible guardrails and stewards and relating to AI? AI cannot, we have to be able to think critically and interpret the data that's coming out of AI. We have to be able to navigate complex human relationships. Genuine embodied empathy. Are we learning those skills? Are we able to sit with decisions when things are ambiguous? All of those things are skills that our young people need in order to be actively engaged responsibly with AI in the future. And I really, I really want to put out our aspiration that as much investment and capital that's going into AI development, that we don't relent in our investment in these human capacities, and tell our young people that that's what they need to develop if they want to stay in this game, going forward.
I hope people, if they didn't hear you, if they didn't catch every word of what you just said, I hope they go back and they re-listen to this and they really internalize all that you're saying, because it truly feels like, when I talk about, I truly believe people have their individual genius, and they should not let AI deceive them into thinking that they don't. So we are running out of time. I would like to ask each of the panelists to have one final thought for this question, and to close with your thoughts. So if each one of you, and Stefan, I'm going to start with you, can answer this. What is the one thing leaders, communities, students, think of the audiences and the populations that your work specifically touches. What do you think is the one thing that they might be underestimating about AI? Oh, Stefan, you are on mute, sir.
Now I forgot what I was saying. No, I think it's AI's perception that it has the ability to shape us. And very strongly under that is the undergirding of words. And when AI is the one that's out there defining what ethics is, and AI is helping to define what conscience is. So we knew what consciousness and a conscience was, and knowledge and a person before. But as AI slowly changes these things and they get worked into our vocabulary, we'll find out that we're using these same words, and AI, in 12 years is going to be asking for rights because someone deemed it the type of conscious or knowledge or intellect that humans. And I
Some
think,
people are having that conversation now, Stefan.
oh, I know.
Yeah.
So watch the words and watch the things that there needs to be boundary words, period. I'll stop at that.
Okay. Carlson.
I just want to say, I think AI has a long, long, long way to go. We're still early. I think people, because it is so popular, LLMs in particular, I think that we think that this is kind of in game. To me, if this is the iceberg, we haven't even reached the surface yet. So this is a great opportunity for us to start building those guardrails, to start thinking ethically, to start being more creative. If AI is going to start offsetting some of the work that we do, I think that really changes what it means to be human beings in the information age. And I think that there's a great opportunity for us to start looking at humanity, at human beings at a larger level, and say, what do we want to do? What do we want to be? Who do we want to be? And how do we want to use these tools to create, again, a win-win situation for both us and our fellow human beings?
Okay, I was going to say, I was wondering who the other side of that win was, because I didn't, the way you just phrased it, I was thinking, oh gosh, is he saying the other win is that the technology gets a win? But you're saying,
well, technology could, if it becomes sentient, which to me, that's all sci-fi right now. It's still ones and zeros to me. I really do think, though, that we may want to start considering, from a philosophical perspective, what does it look like if we do have, these new beings? This is now a new being. If it becomes
I have
sentient.
to stop there because we're out of time, and you and I both know that could take us to another hour.
We won't go there.
We'll have to have that conversation. But Dr. Gregorio, what do you think that your communities might be underestimating?
I think leaders who are deploying AI are underestimating. We're talking about, we're investing in people is soft. as soft skills. And I'm saying to you all, our leaders, that when you're doing AI deployment, if you don't protect the human judgment, the human ethics, the human creativity as you're deploying AI, you will your short run competitive advantage will evaporate, and the long run competitive advantage won't endure. So don't ignore that. You have to do both.
I absolutely love it and want to thank each of our panelists for joining us today, because as we said, what does it actually mean to say the good, the bad, the AI? Because this is all new and forming and shaping, and it's, you know, it's part of the same coin. So what I want to say is, if you have not already, make sure to follow the panelists that we had on today. They have a lot of great work that's going on, a lot of educational work in various spaces, as you've seen. And I also want to make sure, if you are not, please follow the AI for Job Security Foundation, because the whole point is to drive awareness about how communities should understand, embrace, and also accept the limitations of AI and the technologies that are coming out. The other thing is, as I've already said, I have 2 volumes of my book, I Could Have Been CEO Yesterday, but AI algorithms say I'm a DEI risk today. And the trilogy is about how the limitations of the past should not be used to build the future, and how really AI is transforming into that co-adaptive anthropotechnical environment that is shaping society, that is shaping whole communities all around us. And so I hope you tune in. That event is on LinkedIn, and hopefully it goes a little bit smoother than the opening of this one. But I just want to say thank you so much. My name is Lee Felton. This is Inside Power. Join us next time. Bye.